You know that annoying moment when you're carrying too much at once? Coffee in one hand, phone in the other, keys somehow trapped under your thumb, and one tiny slip makes the whole morning go sideways? That's Phineas Gage, except with an iron rod and a brain. In 1848, in Vermont, Gage was helping with railroad blasting when a tamping iron shot up through his face and out the top of his skull. And here's the part that still feels impossible. He lived. How is that possible? Not barely, not as some half-remembered survival story. He got back up, and he became one of the most famous patients in medical history. For a long time, the story got told like a neat horror story. Rod through brain, personality destroyed, end of lesson. Very tidy. Too tidy, honestly. Life rarely behaves that well for a storyteller. Because here's where it gets stranger. When modern researchers looked back at the skull and rebuilt the path of the injury, they found something more precise than the legend. The rod didn't just destroy the brain in some vague sense. It damaged a relatively small amount of cortex, about 4%. But it also severed a lot of the brain's white matter, the wiring that lets different regions talk to each other. And that matters. It's not just what got hit, it's what got disconnected. So if you're wondering why people kept talking about his personality, that's the reason. The front part of the brain, especially the ventromedial and orbitofrontal areas, helps with judgment, restraint, social behavior, and the whole delicate business of not saying the first terrible thing that pops into your head, which, to be fair, is a feature many of us would benefit from at 8:12 a.m. Gage's injury gave scientists a brutal clue that these things live in real tissue, not in some abstract idea of character. And then the story gets even more interesting because the old myth says he was permanently ruined, as if the injury had made everything fixed from that point on. But later evidence makes that much less neat. He seems to have recovered more than people once claimed. He worked again. He traveled. He even drove a stagecoach in Chile. That is not the job I'd pick for someone we're supposedly told had been reduced to a cautionary tale. That detail matters. It tells us the brain can adapt, compensate, reorganize, not perfectly, not magically, but enough to keep a person going. And that is the part I keep coming back to. Phineas Gage didn't just give neuroscience a dramatic case. He forced it to get more honest. He showed that personality isn't a single thing you either have or lose. It's built out of systems that help you decide, pause, predict, and read the room. And when those systems are damaged, the changes can be real without being absolute. So the takeaway is simple and a little humbling. The self is not just a feeling. It's something the brain constructs every day out of connections doing more work than we usually notice. Gage made that visible. And once you see it, his story stops being just a freak accident. It becomes one of the first big clues about who we are.